What's up guys, it's Richie Rich back yet again, and this time I'm gonna bring you a review of the Shakespearean classic, and some would say cult, 1993 smash hit, Much Ado About Nothing. Be sure to check this out. Much Ado About Nothing, which was directed by Kenneth Branagh. I don't know Kenneth Branagh. This was the director of, I believe he was in Wild Wild West. You know the main antagonist. Some people probably don't because of all the mistakes, and he was in the wheelchair. That was Kenneth Branagh, and he also directed the recent film with Johnny Depp, Murder on the Orient Express. So he's he does like a lot of kind of like a theater kind of production films, and this one, which is in the early 90s, is this tells the tale about like a romance in the kind of like that era of like William Shakespeare, and it's actually an adaptation of the Much Ado About Nothing novel book. People are thinking like, well, this is actually a bit different from the the 90s kind of movies I usually do, but I thought, as me being unique, someone who's kind of like thinks outside of the box, I thought it was nice to do a movie review that no one's ever touched, and I saw this inside when I was doing my shopping, as we all do, and I was just like, yeah, this would be a cool film to review. Really attracted me to watch this tale and review it was the one to the far left, just next to Miss Underworld, Denzel Washington, and the timing couldn't be better because I got this, and at the same time I watched through this, I was watching the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award that Denzel Washington finally captured, and I was just like, yeah, especially with the theme of like him getting recognized for his greatness. I said, let me watch this film. And like what's really cool is I've never been in touch with like Shakespearean acts, like I wasn't so much in touch with like reading like William Shakespeare's like books that got adapted to play. So watching this film, and possibly to other many, it could be like very like foreign to people, like how thou must go yonder, like they may find it very weird and can immediately get shut off. What very attracted me to this, for a couple of reasons. What I love is immediately you've got like an all-star cast, and I'll run through them. As the director, you got Kenneth Branagh, I was saying that right, please apologize. You have Batman at this time, Michael Keaton, who just finished playing Batman in Batman Returns, which was the year previous. So he went on to this, and I'll talk about Michael Keaton a bit more later. You got Keanu Reeves just before Speed. He just made Point Break and Bill and Ted. So Keanu Reeves was like the kind of it guy of the 90s. Robert Sean Leonard. You have Emma Thompson. Very great great British actor. Mr. Denzel Washington, of course, we salute you. And yet, young, introducing Kate Beckinsale. This was Kate Beckinsale's first, role in Hollywood. Before like, she really hit the top of like the pile. With like, Underworld and a few like supporting actresses supporting actress roles. This film, I could not believe this film. This film was made in 1993, and I'd not ever watched this. I always watched the trailers, and I was always kind of not turned off, but I was always like, I've never really watched Shakespearean films. Like I was never really a fan of the Romeo and Juliet film with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, or like Macbeth. You know, I always used to kind of dodge that because I was never really you know, into that kind of theatrical, you know, acting, you know. So it's only later on, as like I started to become more of like a real like kind of movie buff, I started to take an interest in this, you know. And it was like watching this film, it just has you know, just a nice like kind of warmth and a joy to it, you know. You can kind of just switch off your you know, brain for a second, just enjoy what's appearing on the screen. So like what the basic synthesis for this film is, as it says in the back, you know, it says, love face, I'm gonna do this as like kind of Hamlet as I can. Love faces hilarious, sexy challenges when one young couple battles treachery at the hand of a sinister friend, while another couple battles each other with help from a prince and a bumbling constable. The lovers just might prevail in this rich comedy that wonderfully, and I say wonderfully, cast the battle of the sexes in the form of elegant dance. You gotta admit that was pretty cool, yeah. But yeah, no, the whole tale pretty much is it's a kind of it's a, like a romance comedy, you know, a hysterical romance comedy, you know. The main focus really lies on like Sean Leonard, I believe that's, is it Robert Sean Leonard, or I hope I'm getting that right, maybe Richard Beers, you know, but I'll double check that later. But like this character, he's madly in love with Kate Beckinsale, you know, and it's like these kind of two different kind of you obviously wouldn't say tribes, but it's like two kind of like class groups like joining together, you know, and you know, getting married in harmony, you know. And what happens is you know, these two obviously got eye for each other, you know. They want to obviously take the ultimate vow. What happens is though, Keanu Reeves, you know, first time I've actually seen him as being like the, you know, the antagonist and the main bad guy. He has an issue with obviously them two getting married. Again, because I only touched on it once, I believe it was because he may have had the hearts for Kate Beckinsale's character, and you know, was just very jealous, you know, that, you know, how can this guy be moving on my kind of squeeze, you know. Or he just hated the fact of where he was represented from, like, you know, the, you know, that class group that he was. He didn't want them interfering with them ones, you know. And there's one scene in the in Crazy, this character, he's about I think like the day before they're getting married, the day before about they're about to get married, he's on the they're on like the top of like you know, the like the castle, like where they are staying at, and like Denzel Washington, Keanu Reeves, and this man, hopefully it's Richard Bears, like Richard, you know, they come there and they see like you know, Kate Beckinsale's character allegedly getting busy with like one of like another just random, you know, dude who was there, you know. And ultimately this guy gets heartbroken, you know. And it's like it was Keanu Reeves. You find out later that it was Keanu Reeves' character's like plot to kind of like disrupt his love from getting married. And what the also film deals with is like as I'll talk mainly about, you know, like obviously one of the reasons I watched this was to do things like Kenneth Branagh, who I think does a very excellent performance. He's very witty and charming with this. He has a big like love-hate relationship with Emma Thompson's character. You know, Emma Thompson's character is a sworn off man forever. She's like, I don't need a man. I'm fine by myself. You know, no man could ever woo me. You know, so she's content with just being by herself. Where all the other women around her are all talking about love, getting married, you know. She's the only one who's kind of distant. Similar to Kenneth Branagh's character, he just kind of wants to be like the, you know, the ultimate playboy. You know what I mean? He doesn't believe on like sticking to only one woman. He wants to like taste. He wants to taste as many fruits as he can get his hands on. You know, so he's like that. What brings them two together is you know, the the friends and the people who hanged out with Kenneth Branagh, and Branagh, who's playing the character's name, finally I got is Benedick, and Emma Thompson playing Beatrice. Like, there's a scene where they're poolside and they're in like this kind of garden of you know, this garden, it looks like the Garden of Eden, you know, something biblical, but you know, they're all there. Denzel Washington's character, the Don Pedro, and I think Keanu Reeves one's Don one, so one of the Dons, you know, so they're all there, you know, in this garden, you know, talking about, you know, Kate Beckinsale's character and Sean Leonard's character, you know, getting married, you know, and that's when they start to make the rumor, you know, saying like, oh, Beatrice says this about Benedick. Benedick said this about Beatrice, you know, and it's such a great, scene because it cuts away from both of them. You know, the girls are there with Beatrice, and the men's, you know, like the Denzel Washington and the other flock, you know, the prince and the friends, you know, they're with Kenneth Branagh's character, Benedick. And yeah, they're just making all these kind of like, oh, this is what she said, and this yeah, you can see within Benedick's mind, it starts to change. Like, you know, for some people, like, you know, it's even happened to me. Like, sometimes you never actually know, like, if a girl likes you until like you get like a, you know, like if someone actually drops like a little sort of it, you know what I mean? You don't want to actually obviously make a move, obviously as a guy, because, you know, everyone hates rejection from both sides, you know, but you don't want to try anything unless you know something's there. And because he hears this from like the other people around, like, you know, he said this, that's when he starts to kind of change his mind, like, oh, you know, she's actually not that bad, you know, maybe she could be the one for me. And on the flip side, Beatrice, played by Emma Thompson, she's thinking of the same thing. At one point she was like, oh, I swore for all men, you know, forget about it. Now she starts to see Benedick in a different light. So like, yeah, in the like second, you know, the second like act leading to the third act, you know, the main like, you know, trump of the scene's trump. See, and I said that. The main trumpet of the scene takes place where second part where the two young lovers are supposed to get married, it actually gets halted because as I said earlier, in one scene, Don Pedro played by Denzel, Keanu Reeves playing the evil brother, and Robert Sean Leonard, finally got the thing, yeah, the young chap who's gonna marry Kate Beckinsale's character. Yeah, one night, this is, I believe this is a couple days before the actual wedding, you know, they're just like, you know, walking down, you know, the area where it is this kind of like sanctuary, you know, very like these kind of like, you know, not medieval time, but these are the times, like I said, it's Shakespearean times, so it's like them kind of period piece, you know. So as them period piece, they always had them kind of towers where like the woman, the Rose of Roses, would stay at the top of the tower. So one night, all three like the three musketeers, you know, they all walk and they see someone who's meant to look like Kate Beckinsale's character engaging in a, you know, an act with like someone who was not Robert Zenith, you know. So automatically they, you know, she's being unfaithful, you know, they see the infidelity, and this crushes his heart, you know, you can just see the emotions in his face. He's just like, I can't believe she did it, you know, thou would treat me such as this? How was that? Something like that, you know, but he automatically feels betrayed. So when they do get to the scene when they're meant to have the wedding, he's just looking at her, they're both standing there and they have the, you know, the man at the altar who's meant to like wed both of them. Do you accept this woman to be your lawful, you know, all that jazz, and he just says no, and he speaks, as I translated it, he said, how could I ever marry, you know, a person who jumps around, you know, someone who I can never trust, you know, because it's always like, how it always seems he would never ever betray her, and obviously she looked like she would never betray him It was just that this was all part of Don, Keanu Reeves. I can say Keanu Reeves, but like a Don Juan, trying to like mess this whole big try to mess this journey of happiness for these two. So like this enrages the father, who was played by Richard the father, who was played by Richard Beers, because he so badly wanted his daughter to get married, because I believe in those times, because as he gets married, he's like, he says like, man, if only God had given me a son. Back in them days, it was mainly for, this is before Women's International Day, this is before, girls rule the world, back then, ideally for any man, to get like their offspring, they always wanted, someone who basically was them, a male, so he thought like, obviously if he's getting his woman and he's married, he's gonna marry this this young gentleman, he could always get that son he always really wanted, and he felt like denied, and he was like, wow, curse you, how could you do this to me, and the wedding's off, and then just moments after, Beatrice and Benedick, they actually get together, I believe it's in that same altar that, the marriage got cancelled, and they actually are together and that, and they they tell each other about how they feel each other, how their love for each other, which does happen honestly when two like men and women who like they like each other, but like again, no one's gonna show anything because one gets rejected. Everyone is afraid of rejection. It's terrifying. When these two actually get together and they're alone, no one's able to be there. They're able to talk to each other without the mask. Then you can see like, okay, these two, they want to be, they want to be together, and as as they confess their love, she says, the only gift I need from you, Benedick, is I want you to eliminate Claudio, who's played by like Sean Leonard, the one who said like, he didn't want to marry Kate Beckinsale's character, because of what he saw, so she wanted revenge for her. Could she do that to her? Basically her girls and like, yeah, so as like because because he's loving her, he says he will try find a way to sell this. You start to see Michael Keaton more near coming to the final act. He's able to find find like what actually happened with like Don Pedro's plan, of like making sure that wedding didn't go on, so he's able to actually bring the guys to, Denzel's character, to Sean Leonard's character, Kenneth Branagh, and they're able, they confess. Like, once like this is actually, like everything pretty much is like, resolved. Like, they're able to find out all this treachery that happened. Claudio, Sean Leonard's character, he agrees to marry the cousin of Kate Beckinsale's character, who I found her name. Her name's Hero. To the dad, he said that he would marry the cousin, because like, after this happened, I believe because she faints when she hears like, this, he didn't want to marry her, it's presumed she either died or she got banished away, so it happens that like, the next morning, once again we're back in familiar territory, Claudio's gonna get married, and it's a very nice kind of surprise, because I think there's a group of women, and they're all covered with like the white kind of velvet, the white kind of robe, where they're wearing the wedding dress and gown to disguise their face, so he can't identify that it's Hero, Kate Beckinsale, underneath the cover, and he tells her that like, without seeing her, he tells like his feelings to her, that's the one for him, and it's just such a great reaction when like, she takes off the cover revealing her true face, and he finds out it's her, you know, and just a great embrace, you know, and you know, he's able to, you know, marry the love of his life. And in the same instance, the ones who started like really hating each other, Benedick and Beatrice, you know, in front of everyone, you know, they find out that they had been played, you know, like the two parties of the girls and the guys, they created like these rumors, you know, to say like, oh, who loved each other thing, and it turns out they actually did have inner feelings anyway, even before that. It just needed to be brought out forward. And then they say, you know, do you accept thee to be the love? You know, they accept each other as a couple as well. So now you had the two young couples, and then you had like Beatrice and also Benedick get married and hopefully live happily ever after. Yes, man. Much ado about nothing. You know, I sometimes wish, you know, like I could have only watched this more times, you know, because I just watched this, you know, jam, you know, and even like just watching this, I just feel happy just reviewing this film, because it just brought me so much joy, you know, just like having like a nice, just, you know, front row seat and just like watching some nice Shakespearean, you know, Shakespeare like in its best form, you know. But what, like I said, you know, earlier, like what I really loved is you know, as I was in the 90s, well, I touched with Michael Keaton, you know, the first Batman film, the 1989 film, that was like probably the first time I'd actually seen a film that I knew it was an epic. And I always remember the first time I watched the film, watched the Batman '89, which was, I had to been like at least 5 or 6, you know, watching it in my parents' room, you know, and I remember like they taped over the Mike Tyson fight over it, so I always missed some bits of like, you know, Batman like first meeting the Joker and that, yeah, but it was always a film that stuck out to me. And you know, Michael Keaton always is, like when I consider Batman, I always see Michael Keaton, you know, because he was what I first saw when I saw Batman. You know, I became like a cold follower of the Batman and everything about DC Comics, you know. So like, it was just really cool to see him, who just basically came off the whole Batman franchise and he went on to this, you know. He actually made one of the best decisions, you know, doing, you know, when going on to this and becoming more of like a actor who just doesn't want to be remembered as Batman all the time. He escaped that and he didn't waste time appearing in them Joel Schumacher debacle films, you know. He went and did this, he did like Desperate Measures, he did Jack Frost, he did Jackie Brown, you know, so he played in films that really required his acting talent. I always loved Michael Keaton. I think he's such an underrated actor, you know. For what he does in this is gold, you know. It's so nice him playing. When you see, I sometimes wish I'd seen this straight after I saw the Batman Returns, you know, because you'll be like, this guy's Bruce Wayne, like how is he able to play this completely different character, you know. And just when he sees up, I'm like, yeah, man, you know, Batman Michael Keaton. And yeah, you know, as I said, with the really stellar cast, you know, like to have like, you know, Denzel Washington and Keanu Reeves, I think this is the first time these two ever paired in the same film together, you know. Denzel, at this time, he just came off big, you know, I've always talked about the importance of that film, Malcolm X, in 1992, and you know, around this time, I'd say I'd always say my best version of Denzel would be the early 90s to the late 90s, you know. I'm talking about Mobile Blues, Ricochet, Philadelphia, Malcolm X, of course, He Got Game. He's able to level them in a way that other black actors don't do, you know, have never done, you know. Sometimes when you see other black actors playing the white, you know, in a white whole, you know, in a whole like white cast, they'll always kind of be like the tongue-in-cheek, you know, token black guy, you know. It's always been around. But Denzel Washington always felt like he's black, but he deserves to be there. If you take him out of this, it's not just a token, like we can just point any other black guy. he needs to be in this film, you know, and the way how he just, you know, the way how he just commands the respect of the, you know, people watching, you know, when Denzel's on, it's like you just want to always engage, you know, he's like, he gives always 2000% in his performance, you know, and he's so great, you know, the way he delivers his like Shakespeare lines, because he actually did, I remember even before he like got into like these major movie motion pictures, he used to actually do theatre play, he played Richard III, so I'm guessing this came, you know, very natural to, like, you know, the biggest star, like, from the Denzel Washington is Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves in this is kind of a tricky one, because in this one he's you know, he's the main like villain, but he's not like, you know, he's not like Dennis Hopper in Speed, kind of like that kind of villain to the max. You know, he's just like the one who's envious of Denzel's character. He's like the evil brother. You know, he doesn't do too much like, you know, scenes that could be like, oh, I went away from watching Much Ado About Nothing, about, you know, like Keanu Reeves was an awesome, but you know, he does what is you know, what's good enough. You know what I mean? What's there in the, you know, and what he does what's needed. With this one, like doing the soundtrack, very difficult for me, because usually with all the reviews I've done, you know, a lot of the other reviews I've always watched the films like multiple amount of times, you know, so it's very easy to be like, I know what music goes with this scene, I know what the next you know, act is coming up, because I've seen it, you know, I've seen Friday multiple times, you know, I've seen Malcolm X multiple times, you know, Devil in a Blue Dress I've seen multiple times. This is my first time I've ever seen it. So what the music is in this, it has that early 90s feel, but it has music that from like the Disney films, you know, and I know this is a kind of weird kind of like a comparison to make, but some of the films like you know, the Aladdin films, or like the Aladdin, the first Aladdin film, you know, castle, you know, like castles, marriage, you know, the period pieces, it has that certain music genre that that, you know, most of those Disney movies, and I'm talking about Disney movies like in the 90s, like Aladdin, I'm pretty sure like Beauty and the Beast had it, you know, even Lion King, it has more of that kind of like music, and I'm pretty sure maybe even, I'm not even seeing it, but possibly even the Robin Hood that would have been set in possibly this era, you know, with Kevin Costner, that would probably possibly have the same music within this, you know. So I really love it. I feel like the score goes with all the scenes when it's need to, you know, and it's just very enjoyous, you know, and that's my review on Much Ado About Nothing, you know, like, it's like, alright, like, who would I recommend this to? Again, for anyone who really wants to see actors at their best, you know what I mean, you know, actors who are actually, you know, working, you know, doing the actual craft, you know, of what like actors, and they're following like one that's like acting story writers, William Shakespeare. This is a great film to watch, you know. Kenneth Branagh has always been a very fine director, you know. You know, some people say he has had some mishaps with, you know, Wild Wild West, you know, but he's there's just a certain quality, you know, the way he directs these films, you know, very like you know, proper director, you know. And you know, again, if anyone's like, obviously, you know, I'm a fan of Denzel, Keanu, Michael Keaton, you know, to have all three of them in one film together, that's like a Christmas tree come too early, you know. So I would definitely say, now, and again, if anyone's like he's a, you know, who doesn't love being in love, you know, romance, you know, that nice kind of love story, definitely check this out. Man, that is my review on Much Ado About Nothing. Who will watch this film after this review? I beggeth thee. Okay. Stay tuned for more reviews that are coming from the 90s. Peace to fingers.